In the modern NFL, an elite receiver is the second most valuable individual player to an offense. These guys are force multipliers, raising the floor and the ceiling of any offense they step into. When one of these guys finally hits their potential, finds himself in a new situation, or sometimes even just gets into the NFL, they become defensive coordinators' worst nightmares. Being an elite receiver obviously takes a certain level of athleticism and help from the quarterback or offensive system, but there are nuances to the game that each of these guys understand and excel at in their own way. Today, we're going to examine three of my favorite guys to watch: Stefon Diggs, Cooper Kupp, and Travis Kelce. Each of them are used in totally different ways in their offense, and all three are the undisputed alpha receiver on their team. However, they each excel at different nuances of receiving that separate them from their peers. To start, we'll look at how Cooper Kupp wins separation through deceit. Now, Kupp isn't typically known for being a super athlete in NFL standards, but what makes him so good is that he's as fundamentally sound as any receiver you'll see, and he has the ability to disguise where he intends to go. On this play here, we're going to see Kupp pick up a big gain on a deep out from a wide alignment. Hitting a receiver who's running an out route from the numbers is not an easy thing to do. Typically, if the offense wants to attack the sideline from wide alignments, they'll use a comeback or back shoulder fade route. But if you can hook up the deep out, then the ball really only has a chance of being caught by the receiver, and it's less complicated than the back shoulder throw. What Kupp does here that's nice is he confuses the corner by throwing two fakes instead of one. Watch as he begins his break. First, the head fake left, then jab inside, and finishing outside with plenty of space for the completion. I'll let Kupp explain this technique himself.
I think in threes, right? So a good DB is never going to go for the first one, but they'll go for the second one.
Yeah.
The good DBs will go for that second one, and they'll handle that first one. But when you give them that second one and they feel it, they're going to jump it.
Yeah.
So if I can make sure at the top of my route, I'm thinking everything needs to happen in thirds, right? 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
breaking back in. A lot of the time you can get them to take just one bad step, open their hips just enough to be able to clear it.
Yeah.
We can see him do this again on a corner route against Darius Slay. Kupp's running the slot here, so he has a two-way go on Slay, which is an advantage for Kupp, but watch as how he's gaining depth in the route. He starts to look and lean left, and it's here that he feeds Slay the first bit of misinformation. Like I said, corners are coached to wait for the first move, so when Kupp shows left, Slay is going to be thinking right as if he was coming back to the post route. And Kupp gives him what he expects: an inside step. However, this is Kupp doing what he does best, as that second inside move just puts the nail in the coffin for Slay once he bites, and it's an easy completion for the Rams. Alright, so next is Stefon Diggs and his ability to use his hands to create separation. You'll hear the booth commentators during games often refer to what's called hand fighting when discussing pass interference calls specifically. What they are talking about is when a receiver and a defender are grabbing each other's hands or wrists in an attempt to force the opposing player to only have one hand to make a play on the ball. Stefon Diggs does this as well as just about any receiver in the league, but he takes it a step further and uses hand fighting during the route to win leverage and separation. On this comeback route here, Diggs waits until the corner tries to get hands on him, at which point Diggs aims to grab the outside arm of the corner and pin it. This allows Diggs to do two things. First, it allows him to lean inside and stack the corner since the corner doesn't have an arm to push back and prevent Diggs from doing so. Second, it allows Diggs to slingshot himself into his break by using the corner's arm to push himself towards the sideline. It's very subtle, and the reason it's hard to see is because the action occurs between the bodies of the players, which is also why it rarely gets called pass interference. We can see a variation of this skill when Diggs is running some kind of deep stop route versus the Dolphins here. He's not hand fighting with the corner here, but he uses his hands to again slingshot himself in the opposite direction. He's clearly got this guy beat, but if he tries to stop now, then the corner is already behind him, so he has a better chance of breaking up this pass. Diggs feels this and knows that he has to get this guy in front of him, so he puts a hand on his shoulder and swipes him by. That corner is off balance trying to recover anyway. He doesn't have much control over his own body and is pretty much just going to go wherever Diggs wants him to at that point. Lastly, we'll examine the skill that makes Travis Kelce seemingly always open. The last two nuances of receiving were more physical, whereas Kelce's skill is almost entirely mental. Zone coverages are known to have holes in them since players are more so guarding space than they are people. Route patterns are designed to exploit and manipulate defenders in these zones, oftentimes by creating a conflict for that player as to who they have to cover. This can be done by stretching them vertically or horizontally. However, there are also ways to beat these coverages by exploiting the dead space between zones where defenders either don't see them or can't react quick enough. Travis Kelce has his PhD in this field. On this play, Kelce shifts across the formation and no one follows him, so the offense can tell this is zone coverage. The two receivers to the bottom are running go routes to stretch the defense vertically. Kelce's route is likely something designed to attack the sideline like a corner or a deep out. But look at what he does instead. He stops. Now, some routes do function like this, such as a stop route or a hitch route or a stick route, but he does this so often that I don't think it was any of those. I think Kelce has the autonomy and the skill to audible his routes during the play by simply reading the actions of the defenders and finding a space to sit in. I mean, look at how wide-ass open he is here. If you want even more reason as to why this probably isn't designed this way, look at the tight end coming across the field on a drag route. They basically intersect each other, and that is almost never in the offensive architecture because it allows one defender to possibly make a play on two routes at once. This isn't the only example of Kelce doing this, even during just this game. This play here has the other tight end shift to Kelce's side, and I want you to watch the route distribution here. Now, tell me, does this seem like a good play design? I'd argue hell no, because one guy could cover up both of the tight ends here. However, I think that Andy Reid of all people understands this, but he trusts Kelce enough to still allow him to do it. I mean, again, he's got 5 yards between him and the next defender. That's as open as you get without a coverage bust. That's Kelce's superpower though. He knows how to make zone coverages wrong. He's able to do this because he knows the route distribution and knows which defenders he'll have to read. On his first couple of steps off the line, he's looking at that Mike backer and seeing that safety too. They're both 4 yards or more away from him and only gaining depth as the play goes on. So Kelce knows that if he sits now, then it should be more than enough time for Pat to find him and get the ball out quickly. I guarantee you they've talked this out for years at this point, so they're on the same page about what they're seeing from the defense. This is something that seasoned quarterbacks love the receivers to do because zone coverages can get tricky and come in many different forms. Finding an open spot in the QB's field of view means he doesn't have to hold the ball any longer, focus on hitting a moving target, or process the defense. It basically becomes pitch and catch. So, if you're a young receiver looking to up your game, take some notes from this video. Elite athleticism makes a difference, sure, but mastery of the skills is what consistently wins. Learning how to deceive your defender, manipulate their body, or just avoid them will be what truly makes you unguardable. Stefon Diggs said it best. I'm him. Keep working, and you can be too.